Let's talk about this run game. We had the gluttony of tight ends, right? The first 6 weeks of the season, 7 weeks of the season. And the Buckeyes going to Wisconsin. I think this was like everybody had just had enough of the tight ends. And it was clear that Ohio State themselves was either trying something new with the RPO game. We're going to go to 11 personnel and not so many of these 13, 14 personnel sets. But you get to the game, axe the tight end bonanza, and all of a sudden, the offensive line plays their sloppiest game of the season. Even guys that are just reliable as heck, like Austin Cerebell's getting beat, giving up pressures in the game early on. He fixed it. Phil Daniels gave up 6 pressures. He had only had 2 the entire season. And you had the Tegra stuff, and it's just like, I'm starting to worry. Was the heavy sets to protect this? Is this related? I don't know, Tone. I don't think it is, but it does got me somewhat scared.
Well, I think that's a good point where why are they playing all of these tight ends? It doesn't help the offense. And then you see the offensive line without the extra help, and nobody was perfect. And there were some really poor plays from every single one of them.
Yep.
But like a tight end shouldn't matter to Luke Montgomery. A tight end shouldn't matter to Tigris Cibola. So it's like, and not that Luke Montgomery was bad, but he had plays where he'd like to have back. So yeah, it's interesting to where maybe this is just, how like running backs need a bunch of plays. I think maybe the offensive line needs a bunch of plays and just 11 personnel, and to not have the ability to rely on a little extra help outside or something like that, where they need to do a bunch of this because they've been doing so much 12 and 13, and they're going to continue doing 12 as well. I assume it's probably pretty close to an even split. But it was interesting to see, like, the only time I think we saw 13 and 14 is in short yardage situations rather than starting a drive on first down like we have kind of all season long at times. And then it's no secret then that also helps the passing game when you have more receivers on the field. But yeah, I don't know. The running game itself is, maybe we'll see it continue to get better if Isaiah West, does something. But right now he's doing kind of a little bit of what Bo Jackson was doing earlier in the season. Question is, can you do that consistently? Can you continue to expand that? And I don't know. And with the RPOs, they rush for 98 yards or whatever, but I would be interested to go back and see, and I didn't chart it, how many of their passing yards came from the RPO, because the coaches are going to just add that to the rushing yards, which is fine. But the thing I keep pointing out and keep saying is that's all fine and accurate, but in the actual running plays, you average 3 yards a carry, and that's not good enough. And so, and Julian Sain got pressured more than ever in this past game. So they've got some things they need to work on, which is good, frankly, over the next week or so. And then we'll see if they decide to make any changes up front. I think a lot of people are clamoring for it.
Yeah. I mean, well, you saw what Tegra was given away about 15 snaps. And then this game, it got up to 26 snaps, but now for Padilla. And on Tuesday in that abbreviated press conference, Ryan Day didn't. So I remember when he was asked specifically about Brandon Inniss, and I went back to this. So he was asked about Brandon Inniss in the punt returns, and he put his flag in the ground, like absolutely, like Brandon's our guy. He made some mistakes. He was asked specifically about Tegra, and he went to, we're going to review the whole team. And then he said, and that'll include Tegra. He didn't plant his flag, and I'm sure he knows the heat. And he knows, like, after a game like that. And honestly, it's been a lot of games for Tegra where we've seen these, a hiccup here, a hiccup there, a penalty here and there. Guys started 24 games at Ohio State now, and it seems like you should be past this. I felt Padilla he wasn't perfect either. He had some plays too, but he did a pretty damn good job. I feel like his floor right now is about where Tegra is. Honestly, it would seem to me like this would probably be a good time to maybe give him the bulk of those snaps and maybe give Tegra the 15 if you're going to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. You've got time now. And I believe Josh Padilla graded out a champion against Illinois, and close maybe this week. But yeah, it's when you're rotating Tegra with Ethan Onionwa to start the season, and then Ethan Onionwa probably can't play here. So then you rotate him with Josh Padilla, and it's like, well, Josh Padilla deserves to play, but we don't want to put him at center because that changes so many things. So we thought, well, let's just try him at right guard. And so at some point, like you're continuing to look for a solution at right guard, and you can dress it up however you want, but why isn't Josh Padilla playing left guard? So it's like you can dress it up however you want, but this is the situation. You continue to mix somebody else in there, and I think they wanted to get as much information regarding Josh as possible so that they could make a more educated decision. But it feels inevitable that eventually that's going to be his job, don't you think?
I feel like it. I mean, and if it is, I think you got a nice little window here before you get to crunch time to really give him the serious audition. All right, man, here you go. Let's see what you got now with all the pressure on you. You're starting. I mean, it's a different ball game when you're that guy. So looking forward to it. I was excited to see Isaiah. I thought he runs obviously at a different style than Bo, and the eyes are always up. He's always setting up downfield, and he's just he's never going to be a great dynamic back. He's just damn effective. He's good at what he does. He's a good, solid back. He's big enough. He's powerful enough. I was so happy to see it, man. I think he's an awesome dude.
Well, and you're right. His head is up, and that's one thing that you're not necessarily seeing from Bo Jackson right now, where he's just point and shoot and going in the direction of the play is designed, whereas Isaiah is looking for something more. And I just remember that the 2002 team, like Maurice Claret, he had to dodge the first guy on about 80% of his carries. There's always somebody seemingly trying to get him in the backfield. So that tells you, one, you don't need a great offensive line to win a national championship. You need some great players and maybe a really good defense. But Isaiah West, I mean, you've talked about the broken tackles or the missed tackles, that he had 4 in that game, and CJ Daniels has had 2 all season.
Yeah.
And it's like we saw CJ Daniels perhaps have his best run, and it was like 12 yards, and he was untouched until he got touched. And it's like, this is it. A 12-yard run shouldn't stand out. And that's where we are right now with the Ohio State running situation, where it's like, wow. It's like, well, that was 12 yards. I mean, you should have 3 of those, 4 of those a game rather than once a month, where you're like, oh my gosh, take a picture.
Yeah.
Send it to the family. And I do believe they're going to eventually get there. What is there? I don't think you need to rush for 180 yards a game to win it all. I just think you need to be timely. And when you have this defense, that will help. But when Ryan Day 2 weeks ago, last week, said they haven't really started drawing up the running plays that are designed to hit home runs, I wonder if that starts getting implemented here pretty soon. Do they still need more information? They do need more information on the running backs. Are they waiting to get more information on that before they start dialing up the home runs? It's like, I don't know if you need to wait for that,
Yeah.
But
I don't know I understand why there's been some waiting on some things here this year as they've gone along, but that one doesn't seem like one of those to me. But when he was asked about, the hierarchies, unfortunately I'm not there yet. Which I don't know, man. I think it's pretty clear, but it's all good. You got a couple games here where you can play around with it, but I still don't think we've seen any of these backs in any one game be able to get in a rhythm. It just has always felt like we're doing this. Now this guy's coming out. He's coming in on 3rd down. Now the next series, it's the other guy. And it seems like a disadvantage for every one of them that they can't get in a groove. Or maybe I'm just wishing that it'll be better if they got in a groove, but it hasn't been good all year. It hasn't at any point felt like, yeah, this is the ticket right here. It's just not ever felt like that. And I really want it to. I worry this might be a team that we never get to that point.
Well, and, getting into a groove, Travion Henderson's high watermark last year was 12 carries in a game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I wonder, because I'm with you, but it's like, is that old thinking?
Yeah.
where it's not going to be part of this team, because you've got to get into your groove in 3 carries. And if you're waiting till that 3rd carry, well, you're probably not going to get a 4th carry. So it's very difficult. But yeah, I mean, Day and Coach Locke and all these guys will talk about competitive excellence. When your number is called, you got to be able to go. But then in the same breath, you'll hear running backs coaches talk about, getting into that groove, getting the sweat, getting all of these things that every running back needs. And it's like, well, not until the 13th or 14th carry do I start, really, feel good about where I'm going to go. It's like, well, you're not getting a 13th or 14th carry. We've had this year, CJ Donaldson and Bo Jackson over a 12 carries, I think, this season, just once each. So, and Quinshon Judkins had his high water mark last year was 17 carries. J.K. Dobbins would have 17 carries in the first half in 2019. So it's just a different game. You've got to get it while you've got a shot. And if you can't, then somebody else is going to get an opportunity. If they can't, then somebody else is going to get an opportunity, and it's just going to keep being passed around. And you may just all season long just keep passing it around until you realize, like, well, in this last game, you saw James Peoples with no carries and CJ Donaldson with 2. And you wonder if at some point, is Bo Jackson never going to go back to 4 or 5 carries? I don't know that that's going to happen, but at some point, they're not ready to cut guys down, but it sure looks like they did in this last game.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't think that was just to see an audition. I mean, obviously the plan, I don't think, was ever to see Isaiah West in this kind of role this year. That wasn't the plan. That's a product of, it not going great with 1 and 2. They was also asked about the wide receivers, and we saw obviously Quincy Porter with a couple of catches, looked pretty good with one of them. He's obviously physically ready. He's talked recently about Mylan Graham practicing better, which makes me think maybe there's something to that. Like maybe it hasn't been great at practice. I don't know. Everybody's been clamoring to see him since the spring game a little more, but he brought up Bryson as well, will be healthy and he'll be back. And he talked about kind of Jeremiah and Carnell need some of that. They need to be spelled. I found it really interesting because like he talked about it like that's just, that's the way it is. But in fact, that's never been the way it is. They don't rotate wide receivers. I don't know why he's talking about this like this is just, this is. Do you think we're going to start seeing a wide receiver rotation here?
I don't know about rotation, but I do think, whatever snaps, I don't know what their numbers were this past week, but Quincy doesn't look out of place. Mylan Graham made a catch. It looked like Carnell Tate making a catch on the sideline. So, whether, 8 to 15 snaps a game, I think you continue to do that. And I always look back at Chris Olave in 2018 as a true freshman, where he played a little bit and then he got better and better and then was basically in the rotation by the end of the season. Unfortunately, in 2018, they were playing 20 more snaps a game than they do now. So it's hard to really increase numbers greatly just because there aren't numbers. But if Carnell Tate and JJ, they want a little bit of a break or need a little bit of a break, they'll probably never tell you. But right. Then if you notice it and watching it via their explosion or their what they're doing at the top of their routes in the late third quarter, maybe it becomes clearer to you that okay, they need some time off throughout the course of a game. That way they're more explosive than they are now late in the game. There's no reason not to do it. Ryan Day was always talking about limiting plays for players, and that's why they've gone to a slower pace. So if you're trying to protect players and limit players, why not encourage more rotation? Although I will say, these last couple of games, they're playing more plays and they're running a little bit more tempo. So I wonder if they're doing that to get more information before it's time to lock in everything and explain and proclaim who they are, or if it's just ongoing practice against Big Ten scheduling.
Which is really interesting in the whole schedule thing. And I'll get there in a minute, but I'm with you. Let's see. These guys are obviously ready. Let's see a little more. 8-10 snaps is cool. I want to remind everybody to please like today's show, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And if you come join us on BuckeyeHuddle.com, you can get some amazing nuggets on the board, like the one I put on the board the other day, that in 2018, if that team had gone on at the pace of play they played and won a national championship in 15 games, and this team goes on to win a national championship in 16 games, the 28 team would have played 4.5 more games worth of plays. That's how different we're talking. That's a lot of difference, Tone. 4.5 games worth of offensive plays more in one less game. That's crazy.
No, yeah, the pace of play, the clock rules, like all of it. Just a different time, different world in so many ways.
I miss it, but whatever. It is what it is.
You missed the 4 hours and 15-minute games, and
I tell you what, I'm kind of a stat junkie. I do miss because when I'm now trying to compare numbers, I have to consistently, but yeah, this is a lot different. It's like comparing what we used to do, Big 10 numbers versus Big 12 numbers, right? Like we've now got to do it just with eras.
It's the days of, like, when you go and look at Ohio State's all-time scoring teams, it's all of these 45-point per game teams from Ryan Day and Urban Meyer, and it's like you're probably never going to see that again, despite the talent being just as good as those teams. Well,
that 3-possession first half at Washington was just like smack me in the face, man. Like I can't stand this. But there was a turnover, but even still, 4 is just like, gosh, dude, this is horrible.